Hello, from Will here, and welcome to another series for www.modelrailroadreviews.com. Today we'll be looking at tips for locomotive health and good running, part of an ongoing series in which we present 10 tips to help your railways each time. Tip number 1. Some of your locomotives might have ring-filled motors. These are now generally phased out, but they'll have cogs underneath, and these will eventually need oiling. Sometimes once they've been oiled, they can pick up some of the ballast from the track that's loose, and it can clog up those cogs. So simply use something like a small needle, or even here I've got a stapling pin, and just wipe away any bits that clog those cogs. You can also go inside the motor, like on this Deltig, if you get any further problems. Tip number 2. Get to know your locomotives. I know that the City of Bristol here works best at a speed of 75 miles an hour and occasionally has trouble getting over some tight curves and might derail in certain places. So I always watch out especially on those places and reduce or increase the speed accordingly to try and avoid these problems. Also, you can get to look at the track as well if you do find any regular problems. Tip number 3. One of the banes of railway modellers is that when their locomotives don't work, they'll find that it's the wheels are dirty. Now this Dauntless, the J39, and you can use a variety of things like the Pico wheel cleaners, or even a bit of hardboard I found for some models, just to clean that dirty grime which you can see there in the grooves from the wheels of older locomotives, and that should get them running again. Other than that, you can always take the wheels out and give them a quick wash, making sure you don't get anything on electrical equipment. But maybe even a tissue could remove tough stains. So that's something to look out for, as well as cleaning your track regularly. Tip number 4. Clean your track very regularly. I do it about once every 3 days, or if I'm going to do a lot of running in a day, or I've got visitors or something, I'll clean it the whole way round. And for this layout, that's a big job. So that's if you have nickel-silver track, which does tarnish. Steel track, like on the upper loop, you can see it's more yellow on the nickel-silver, more silver on the steel. Steel doesn't have the build-up, and it's also cheaper in some cases. So it might be worth investing in steel track, but remember they don't have points and things, so it's easy enough to get around the track cleaning problem. So just make sure you clean your track regularly. Tip number 5. Get to know your locomotive's limits. For example, on this Intercity 125, I know it can just about manage the 1 in 24 gradient that I put it up against with 2 carriages. If I put more carriages on, it might struggle, but as you can see at the moment it's okay. So I won't push it any further. It's also the right weight for the downslope. Also, City of Bristol here works best when she has about 4 coaches. Any more and it sort of damages the speed that she can go at. It'll go much slower. So I always put around 4 coaches on, just to equal out both look and performance. So knowing your locomotive's limits can really help both the performance and look of your trains. Tip number 6. Lay your point work well. Make sure there are no gaps in between where the points are or elsewhere, because if a locomotive becomes derailed before it goes over the points, then that's potentially very dangerous, especially on areas like this. So make sure your track laying is impeccable, and hopefully your locomotives will run fine on it. Tip number 7. Ensure proper defences are in place in dangerous places for your engines. Now in my case, that's a long drop down to the concrete floor down there, so I've put in these defensive barriers that are sturdy and will stop an engine all the way along here, and glued them in through the holes, and hopefully that will stop any tragedies occurring. So I put those in straight away. Tip number 8. Again to the same area, ensure that your ballast is solid and won't come up. You can see here this is fairly solid after many layers of watered down glue, and that way it probably won't get on the locomotive's wheels and cause any more trouble. Tip number 9. Make sure nothing gets in the way of the track. For instance, this wall here that's not yet fixed down could be knocked by an engine, and the engine could then fall off. So do make sure that things like fences and other objects like buildings and platforms as well is a major one, don't get in the way of your engines. so keep your line clear. And finally, for this tip section, make sure your locomotives are well looked after they've done the day's work. So in this case, I've got my layout in the garage, so I pack away my locomotives in this in the tissue lined boxes according to their size, and once put in, they have an elastic band wrapped over the top to make sure that no tragedies occur whilst transporting them inside. The benefits of making sure they're inside and not in the loft or in the garage include, or standing on the layout at all, include that the dust doesn't get in there, and the metal doesn't tarnish or anything like that. So it might just help you in the long run. Anyway, I hope this episode for tips for running on your layout has helped you in some way or another, and might help you to get around some of the problems that will face your railway, because they can always be overcome, and it's never worth giving up on an engine, as I'm sure that Ryan will attest to in one of his future videos. So any more problems, do make a request to see a focus on them and how to overcome them, because there's always problems and there's always a way of overcoming them. So I hope this has been useful, and see you all soon with more reviews and realism features. Bye!